What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the Pika Pika Papa, and as a guy who talks way too fast in all of his videos, I am actually going to slow down for this one because there is so much data to go over and it is super heavy, but I also think it is incredibly important and just overall fascinating. And I think that, you know, the channel always focuses on this. We focus on taking lessons from the past and applying them to the present to give us some idea of what might happen in the future. And we're very cautious to say some idea because you just never know what might happen. But what you're looking at here on the right-hand side is every single month, around the 15th of every month, I aggregate the value of the top 20 singles cards and all of the booster boxes from the Sun and Moon, the Sword and Shield, the XY, and now the Scarlet and Violet generation. And what you're looking at right here is the aggregate value of those top 20 singles card prices and the booster box prices from the Sword and Shield generation starting in September 23 all the way till now. And we look at this every month, and what we have seen, it's beyond a shadow of a doubt, like it is 100% factual, is that booster boxes can be a leading indicator of singles cards price growth. And now by that, what I mean is the booster box price grows first, which is the leading indicator that very soon the singles card prices are going to go up thereafter. Now, it doesn't happen every single month, as you'll see when we get into this, but it happens with enough frequency that it is absolutely undeniably true, at least for the data set that we have. So because I knew that was happening, about a month ago, I decided to do a video where I said, all right, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna pretend that we live in this fictitious world where we have the ability to buy all of the top 20 singles cards from every single set that has a booster box in the Sword and Shield era whenever we so choose. So I said, okay, listen, we're gonna do scenario number one is gonna be, we're gonna buy all of the top 20 singles cards from every set that has a booster box, literally every time that the booster box price as an aggregate goes up month over month, okay? And then we're gonna also do it in a narrower scope where we're only going to buy when the booster box prices go up 5% month over month. So again, we're starting with every time the booster box prices go up, we buy. Then we're narrowing the focus to only when booster box prices go up by 5% or more. And then to make things further complicated, because that's just what I like to do, I said we're going to go through two selling scenarios. We're going to go one selling scenario where you buy 1 month those top 20 singles cards because the booster box prices told us to do so, and then you sell the very next month. And then in the other one, we're gonna do where we hold on to those singles cards for 2 months, and you don't sell until 2 months further down the road, giving those singles cards more time to do whatever it is that they're going to do. And I did this video for all of the top 20 singles cards, and I thought it was a ton of fun. Not a lot of people watched it, maybe not a lot of people will watch this one, but in the course of that video, I said, I am going to come back and do this over again, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it for just the chase cards. Forget all of the top 20 singles cards, because there's a whole lot of noise in there. You're talking about 240 total cards. I'm gonna do it for just the top chase cards. 12 booster box sets for the top 12 cards in the entire era. So the number one card from every set that has a booster box. But then I also thought, you know what? Let's be honest. Like Darkness Ablaze isn't all that exciting. Rebel Clash isn't all that exciting. You know, you got Sword and Shield base set. You know what I mean? Like there's just not a lot of oomph there in the very beginning with Vivid Voltage as well. So I said, forget about those 4. Let's just talk about the 8 cards that started with the alt art, okay? So Battle Styles was our very first chase card with that Sleepy T-Tar with an alt art. Then every set after that, top chase card had an alt art. So we're gonna look at it from 3 different ways. We're only gonna drill down into the top 8 cards, but we'll also look at the overall gains that would have happened if you did all 12 of the chase cards, and I'll still provide the information just from a numbers perspective for how the top 20 performed. But I think this is a really interesting perspective because you could execute this trading strategy. You could actually buy 8 cards and sell 8 cards every month or every other month or whenever the booster box price tells you to do so. So unlike the first episode that we did, which was totally fictitious, like you can actually do this. So it's going to be a ton of fun. It's super data heavy, but the outcomes are absolutely astounding, and I can't wait to share it with you. So if you get into this video, this is another one we spent a ton of time on. If you get into it, if you find it interesting, if you think it's valuable, hit that subscribe button or give us a thumbs up. We do fun stuff like this all the time. We try and take the Pokemon collecting and investing space kind of to the next level from a data perspective. So if you do those 2 things, helps me out and I really appreciate it. So let's jump into it because there's a lot of noise on this slide. So this is exactly the way I presented it the very first time, but what I have learned here is I need to take out the booster box prices because as you're gonna see here, we're talking about buying in January, selling in February, et cetera, et cetera. So what I did was I had the booster box price growth on there to kind of validate the reasons we were buying, but I'm just gonna go ahead and blank those out. So here's what we're looking at. If you look at the graph on the right there, those are if you buy the top 8 chase cards based off of if the booster box price is positive. So in January of 2024, booster box growth was positive. So we would have bought the top 8 chase cards from those 8 sets for $1,585. And then you see the darker blue line below that is sell. So we're only holding on to 1 month in this exercise. We're only holding on to them for 1 month, right? So then you would have sold them in February for $1,562. Womp womp. 1 month in, you're down $23 at a negative 1.5%. But then look what happens after that. And then you would have bought it again, right? You would have bought it in February because booster boxes were positive in February of 2024. And then you would have sold it in March because remember, we're only holding on to it for 1 month. But guess what? You would have netted $71 in that trade. So you would have been up 4.5%. You would have totally negated the loss from the very first trade. And then when you would have bought in March, because again, booster boxes were positive and you would have sold in April, singles cards got very exciting, right? You would have gained $205 on just those 8 cards alone. You would have been up 12.6%. And then you can see again, April into May, you would have been up almost $1,000 because singles cards absolutely spiked. A lot of that was driven by the Moonbreon. So as you can see, you have months that are positive. You actually have some pretty significant negative months, which if you remember the previous video, you didn't have these big negatives because it was spread out around the top 20 cards. But at the end of the day, if you had done this, if you had bought those top 8 cards and you had held onto them for 1 month every time the booster box aggregate value was positive, you would have netted a total of $2,810. And remember, you're buying and selling, so you're not holding on to cards. You're actually, that's money in your pocket. Your net gain would have been $2,810. Now, if you're selling on eBay, you got eBay fees and all kinds of other stuff you got to equate, but I'm just talking about prices moving up. So the overall would have been $2,810. The average gain would have been 10.9% per trade. And you can see if you had done all chase, I have that up there, the 12 different chase cards, so including Vivid Voltage, Rebel Clash, including Darkness Ablaze, and Sword and Shield base, the average of all chase would have been 10.9%. And when we did the top 20, it was only 9.1%. So here's a very early thing that those top 8 chase cards just outperformed. We talk about how premium cards outperform everything else, and we certainly see it here, right? So then on the next one, the graph there to the left, that is if you only bought when booster box gains was 5% or more. So the market in the booster box space was really bullish for that month. The overall gain of those 12 booster boxes was greater than 5% month over month. And again, January to February, you see the same thing. It's the exact same thing. You were down $23. But what do we miss? We miss out on the graph on the right where you see we would have purchased in March and sold in February for that $71 gain. That's not there because the booster boxes weren't up more than 5%. We immediately jump in to that April or the March and April and May sales, which netted us $205 and $969. And as you go down, look at how big those chunk gains are. You also negate the 2 other negatives. So holding onto those cards just for 1 month, only buying them when the booster box value goes up more than 5% month over month looks like a much, much better route than just doing it whenever the booster box price goes up. And as you can see, the average gain for those trades was 15.9%. And then if all chase, those 12 chase cards was 15%, and then the top 20 was down to 14%. So some really impressive numbers here, right? I mean, let's be honest here. If you could average 15.9% per trade when you're only buying 8 cards and you're executing it, what, 7 different times? I mean, any trader, any investor in the entire world would absolutely take that 9 times out of 10. But what if we did things a little bit differently? What if we held on to them for 2 months instead of selling them after 1? That's what we're going to look at here on the next slide. And again, I show you all the booster box prices and how they move and why we're buying them. We're just going to go ahead and purple those out so we don't have to look at them. Spoiler alert, purple's my favorite color. That's why I picked it. So on the right, here's what we have. No gate, which means anytime the booster box aggregate value was positive, but we hold on to it for 2 months. And as you can see, the gains start to get really, really frothy here. You have big chunk gains. I mean, just look from March to April there. Look at that, or May to April, excuse me. May to April, the gain was like $1,174. And then in June, the gain was $1,053. Then you get down to February, the gain was $1,100. $500, there are some negatives in there, and there are some big negatives. You see that in August, you would have lost $515 on that trade. In July, you would have lost $230. So this is in no way, shape, or form like a silver bullet that's always going to be positive. But if you follow the course, if you follow the process, if you do it consistently over time, and again, you're only trading 8 cards every single month, like you would have been up $4,579. Your average trade would have been up 19.7%. Now, if you do the same exercise for all 12 chase cards, you would have dropped your rate of return. The average gain would have been 18.4, and for all 20 or all the top 20 cards, it would have been 16.4%. But of course, I'm saving the biggest one for last. Again, it is just proven, like whenever booster boxes are up more than 5%, the aggregate value of booster boxes is up more than 5% month over month, singles cards just have a very, very strong rate of return. That is such a strong correlation. And if you look right here, if you had followed that exact same trading strategy, you know, booster boxes greater than 5-month gain month over month, you held on to those 8 cards for 2 months and sold them at the end of that, you would have been up $4,795. The overall value is just a little bit higher, but the average of your gain per trade is significantly higher because you have less trades, right? You have far fewer trades. You only have one trade that's at a negative 8.2%. On the right-hand side, you had that same negative 8.2% trade, but you also had one that was negative 17.8%. Then you had one that was negative 1.6%. Like, understanding that when booster boxes, at least in the data set that we have, go up 5% month over month, leads to a very, very strong indicator that singles card prices are going to jump, especially the chase cards over the next couple months. I think it's a really cool lesson. I think it's awesome to talk about. Again, I'm not sure if anybody's going to watch this video. It's super data heavy. You could view it as super dry, but for me, this is the fascinating stuff. This is the stuff that allows us to play chess when everybody else is playing checkers. And when I spend my money, I want to make sure I do it with all the information I can have at hand. And this is the type of stuff that I pay attention to. So I hope you found value in it. I hope you had fun. Lord knows if you made it to the end, you're a data head like me. So hit that subscribe button or give us a thumbs up. Those 2 small things go a long way in helping my small channel out. I really appreciate it. I will talk to you later. See you, everybody.